These days, it's so hard to know what's real and what's not, and what's good for you and what's not.
Don't do drugs. Don't get on this, and it's very mixed signals for them.
I was 13 when I started. I'm 26 now. In graduated high school, I went to another program, and meaning program like daytime, outpatient. I'd gotten in trouble, caught with marijuana, and I had to do drug tests, and I couldn't stop. I saw the consequences.
They mess themselves up, they lose their ambition.
It gets to your brain and it causes a lot of memory loss. It causes cognitive skills, mood changes.
The problem with the left, they never connect the dots, so they embrace all change without thought of consequence. The problem with the right, we connect too many dots and we see only the bad, fearing we will become a nation of stoners. Who do you listen to?
I had learned that instead of calling it addiction, it was a dependency.
Why the Great Divide? I think that people who speak in the middle road terms don't get as much press. Sensationalism sells whatever form of media people are interested in.
It's all about making money, so it misinforms the end user at times about what it can be used for or its benefits.
I don't think people are able to make sound judgment about whether they want to use or not use because the truth of marijuana is not getting out there.
I had gone to 2 rehabilitation centers. The first one was more based on the scare tactics, and that just, for me, I put up a wall. It was like, you're not gonna sit here and tell me that I feel that I should be feeling something that I don't. I'm going home, I'm getting high, and this is helping me get through my home life. So you're not gonna tell me that it's gonna make me do this or make me do that. That didn't, as a teenager, that didn't sit with me right. And then the second one I went to, it was, the same kind of outlook of, I'm not going to tell you not to do this, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong, but let me sit down and explain to you what it is doing to your brain.
If you're smoking it, that's what we've been saying a lot during this interview, you're still smoking, one way or another. It's smoke and it's going into your lungs.
Anything that has combustible properties or emits a flame is dangerous to your lungs.
If you're just inhaling any burnt material, it's hot, it can have negative effects on your lungs.
And you're ingesting smoke into your lungs, different chemicals that are in it. The studies are out there, they're starting to come forward to see how much it does affect the adolescent brain in development and IQ.
Everything was emotional. I'd smoke and then I'd get emotional. I didn't let my brain develop in that aspect. There's chemicals that go off in your brain naturally that, were overstimulated, or, it makes your hippocampus smaller. So my memory I still have problems with my memory, and I'm very aware of it. I'm not in denial about it. Everyone's like, oh yeah, it kind of messes up memory. No, it definitely, my short-term memory and long-term memory are definitely messed up.
If you smoke a lot, you're basically wasting time when you smoke. Like if I go and get high, I'm not gonna go do homework for 2 hours.
Yeah, I'd sit down in class and go to school high. And honestly, right now, it's probably not the best for me. This is the ending of my brain developing, and you know what I mean, as far as growth goes.
There was a poll done by Hazelton Betty Ford a couple years ago that said that 60% of young people think it doesn't damage the brain at all in any kind of way.
When I go to workshops and I hear different things, the age of students taking drugs or experimenting with drugs is lower and lower every year. So it is not uncommon for middle school students that have tried marijuana.
Is there really are taking advantage over the young, over possibly the people that aren't educated in all the facts?
Edibles are usually going to be sweet candied snacks, whether they're brownies, whether they're cookies, whether they're lollipops or chocolate bars or strawberry chocolate bars or some kind of gummy candy.
Students might not be aware that there's drugs in some of these packaged goods, and it's certainly an easier way for students to be exposed to them.
But the other issue here is that it's not like a pack of gummy bears or a candy bar is one serving. Usually it's 4 servings or 8 servings or 16 servings. So people are going to be taking far more marijuana than is the quote-unquote recommended dose.
You know, marijuana can be expensive. If you want good marijuana, I mean, you know, for the amount you're smoking, it can add up. So there are things, I think, that are cheaper that, you know, that is what it could lead into a gateway. The gateway meaning you have this sensation, this false sensation of euphoria, and over time, it does fade.
They really do start more in the tobacco area. They will move on to alcohol typically, and next move on to marijuana. As they keep progressing through these different substances, they're starting to think or believe that there's no harm. So as they keep going through this process, they start to then experiment with further drugs because they think, well, this wasn't so bad. I bet you the next step isn't so bad.
One of the problems is that it can kind of give like a false sense of safety and comfort, like, oh, like, you know, drugs really aren't that bad, because you grow up, you know, all through, you know, elementary school, at least in Hunterdon County, learning about how awful drugs are, and then you know, I guess you smoke weed and it's like, oh, like it's really not that bad, like it doesn't do anything to you.
Say no to drugs.
The just say no messages that I grew up with in the 1980s were absolute disaster.
No.
No. No!
Because basically what happened was marijuana, starting in the 1930s, was demonized as a drug that will cause you to kill someone or kill yourself or rape someone or turn you gay or turn you schizophrenic. And none of those things are true, and some of them are beyond the pale, in fact. But so when people smoked marijuana and found out that none of those things happened, they stopped trusting the messenger. It's a concern for me because it's a demonization of the chemical, and that then leads people to not listening to other information which is much more relevant and reputable.
I can tell you those that are in treatment for heroin, not every marijuana or pot smoker becomes a heroin addict, but almost every heroin addict has used or continues to use pot.
What I've read is I feel that it's a gateway drug. And I think what society's saying now is that marijuana is an alternative to some of these harder drugs. And what they're finding is that some people, they're trying marijuana and it's leading to harder, you know, that next high.
So when you increase those THC levels, that's what gives you the psychoactive ingredient that gives you that euphoric feeling, that high feeling. So the higher levels, the easier, again, you become used to that, and you're always then looking then for a bigger high.
What's happening with dabbing is people are taking marijuana oil and boiling it down to a wax, and then they're making it into something that's very, very strong THC content. We're talking about 90% or 95% THC content. So again, this isn't even marijuana now. This is just strictly the drug concentrate.
It's hitting at the body at a higher potency and a quicker potency, so that dependency, that behavioral tendency also starts to grow quicker.
So like I think as you get more comfortable with it, you can become more open to other drugs, and then like consequently you could get more comfortable with those.
I think that marijuana was somewhat of a gateway. It probably had a pretty significant role in experimentation with other drugs, but many people wouldn't even be tempted to try them. It's the rush of trying an illegal activity that brings a lot of people into doing it.
Marijuana being illegal and somebody using marijuana, that they're willing to break the law for that drug. So they're willing to break the law for marijuana, they're willing to break the law for cocaine, they're willing to break the law for heroin. So in that way, it's certainly a gateway.
Just for people to be aware, you know, to recognize what it's doing to their body and being open to it, you know, not being so closed off and automatically think that, you know, it's not affecting them. You know, everything we put into our body has some kind of an effect.
I know a lot of people who tend to smoke weed like a lot, and it gets to the point where it's like, it's such a part of, you know, your everyday lifestyle that, yeah, it takes away from doing other things.
Deciding that you want to be a better person was really how I decided I wanted to stop. I just wanted to change so many things. This summer was all about being a better person. We're in college now. These are the most important years of your life to really stand out and make yourself better.
Waking up each day and having like a whole bunch of things to do ahead of you that you choose to do and that you want to do, I think that in and of itself is more than enough, you know, stimulation.
I think you have to have in mind when you're smoking weed that you're not going to be at your most productive.
You know, ruin is a subjective term. It certainly can prevent someone from reaching their potential.
If you're going to get involved in drugs or you're going to get involved in something that's harmful to you, the world's a competitive place already. You don't need one strike against you.
One of the biggest struggles was the fact that, I kind of got put down for the fact that I was struggling with being able to say that I couldn't stop smoking marijuana. And it was embarrassing. But it doesn't have to be. It is a dependency, and it might be different than addiction, but it's, it was affecting me, and it's hard. So, and to know that there's, life can be fun and beautiful without being messed up and being high. So.